I'm about to make half of the EDC community mad. I think some of us are carrying way too much stuff. Knife, backup flashlight, multi-tool, pry bar, pen, backup pen, power bank, bit driver, notebook, pouch, first aid. And then we put the pouch inside the sling, inside the backpack. At some point, are we still everyday carrying, or are we packing for a side quest or some sort of mission? And before somebody starts typing, Mikey, it's called being prepared, I know, I do it too. But today, I want to ask a question that I don't think enough of us ask. How much of the stuff you're carrying do you actually use? What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of EDC For Beginners. If you're new here, my name is Mikey, and this is the podcast all about helping people get into everyday carry without feeling overwhelmed, pressured, or like they need to spend thousands of dollars to enjoy this hobby. On my main channel, though, MikeyDailyCarry, I review knives, flashlights, backpacks, fanny packs, wallets, pens, and just about anything and everything EDC. But over here, we're not talking much about products. We're talking more so the mindset behind everyday carry. And today's episode might get me in trouble because I'm going after all of us, myself included. I think there's a point in almost everybody's EDC journey where you start with a couple of items, then slowly the collection grows. First, you carry a knife. Then you realize a flashlight would be useful. Then you discover multi-tools. Then somebody convinces you that you need a pry bar. Then you buy a pen. Then you buy a nicer pen. Then you realize you need somewhere to put everything. So you buy a pouch. And then once you have that pouch, you look at the empty slots. Well, I gotta put something here. Then you need something to carry the pouch. So you buy yourself a sling. Then you realize you want more room. Now you got a backpack. And 6 months later, you're walking around with 8 pounds of EDC gear to go get yourself some coffee. What happened? And listen, I'm not making fun of anybody. I've been there and I'm still there. That's why I think we should actually audit our EDC. I want to give you guys a challenge. For the next 30 days, carry normally. Don't intentionally remove anything. Don't intentionally add anything. Carry exactly what you usually carry. But every time you use something, make a note. Knife, used. Flashlight, used. Pen, multi-tool, pry bar, used. Whatever you carry. At the end of the 30 days, look at that list because I think some of us are going to discover something uncomfortable. There are things we've been carrying for months, maybe years, that we haven't used once. Now, does that automatically mean you should remove it? No. And this is where I want to make an important distinction. Because frequency of use isn't the only reason to carry something. I'd break EDC into 3 categories. Category number 1, things you regularly use. These are easy. Your phone, wallet, keys, maybe your knife, flashlight, pen, whatever your everyday items are. If you're reaching for it constantly, it probably deserves its place. No big philosophical debate there. You use it, it stays. Category 2 are your just in case items. This is where the conversation becomes more complicated because there's gear you might rarely use but absolutely want available when you need it. First aid, obvious example. Hopefully you don't need to use your first aid every week. If you do, we have a completely different problem. But something being rarely used doesn't automatically make it unnecessary. And that's an important distinction. Emergency equipment has a different value calculation. The likelihood of needing it might be low, but the consequence of not having it when you need it might be extremely high. That's different from carrying a third bottle opener. Which brings us to category number 3. Why am I carrying this? This is my favorite category because I think we all have at least one, something you bought, added to the rotation, and just never questioned again. Maybe it's a pry bar. I can already hear the pry bar community relax. I love pry bars. But let's just say you've carried one every single day for 2 years and never used it. At what point do you ask, do I actually need this? Maybe the answer is yes. Cool, keep carrying it. But maybe the answer is, honestly, I saw everybody else carrying one and thought I needed one too. That's worth knowing. And this is where I think beginners can accidentally confuse EDC culture with personal necessity. See, because you see pocket dumps online, beautiful layout, knife, flashlight, pry bar, pen, multi-tool, coins even, hanks, pouch. And because everybody's photos look similar, you start thinking, oh, that's what EDC is supposed to look like. No, that's what their EDC looks like. You don't have to recreate somebody else's pocket dump just because you saw it really nice on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you see it. And this brings me to one of my favorite EDC debates, redundancy. Let's talk about the backup knife. Why? I'm serious, why? And I know somebody watching this has a perfectly legitimate answer. Maybe your job depends on a cutting tool. Maybe one knife is utility and another serves a completely different purpose. Maybe you simply like carrying two knives. Fine. But if my answer is, in case my first knife breaks, what are you doing to your knives? Are we opening Amazon boxes or splitting firewood? And before somebody clips that one out of context, I'm joking, mostly. But the point stands. Redundancy should have a reason. Take flashlights. If you're somebody whose job requires reliable illumination, a backup flashlight could be incredibly smart. Because if your primary dies, you actually have a problem. But if you're carrying two flashlights and the only time you use either of them is looking underneath a couch once every 3 months, maybe you need to rethink that backup. And this applies to everything. If you're carrying a multi-tool and then carrying dedicated versions of every single tool already inside your multi-tool, ask yourself why. Maybe there's a good reason. Maybe the dedicated tool performs dramatically better. Cool. But again, intentionality, that's what we're looking for. Because I don't think the goal of EDC should be carrying as little as humanly possible. I'm not trying to turn everybody into a minimalist, and I'm definitely not saying preparedness is bad. I'm asking whether your preparedness matches your reality. Because here's the trap. There's always another hypothetical. What if my flashlight dies? Okay, carry a backup. But what if my backup dies? Carry another backup. What if all 3 batteries die? Power bank. What if the power bank dies? Solar charger. What if there's no sun? Generator. And eventually you drove to Target with a bug out vehicle. At some point, you have to decide what level of preparedness makes sense for your actual life. And that's where I think probability and consequence becomes useful. Ask 2 questions. How likely am I to need this? And what happens if I don't have it? High probability, high consequence. Carry it. High probability, low consequence. Probably still worth carrying. Low probability, high consequence. That's where emergency and preparedness gear often lives. Low probability, low consequence. That's where I start asking questions. Because if I haven't used something in 2 years and absolutely nothing meaningful happens if I don't have it, why am I carrying it every single day? And there's another factor we don't talk about enough: weight. Every individual EDC item feels insignificant. Knife, 4 ounces. Flashlight, couple ounces. Multi-tool, few more. Power bank, pouch, cables, first aid. Before you know it, you've added several pounds to something you're carrying every day. And if it's in your pockets, you feel it. And if it's in your fanny pack, you feel it. If it's in that sling, you feel it. And if it's in your backpack, you definitely feel it. And sometimes removing 3 things you never use makes your entire carry experience better. There's also something else that happens when you carry too much. Accessibility gets worse. This sounds backwards because you'd think more organization means easier access, but not always. If the tool you need is buried underneath 12 other tools, your preparedness isn't helping very much. Sometimes a simpler loadout means faster access. Knife here, flashlight here, wallet here, phone here, done. You know where everything is. And that's why I think EDC should have layers. Your pocket EDC doesn't necessarily need to prepare you for every scenario. Maybe your pockets cover your immediate needs. Your fanny pack adds another layer. Your work bag adds another. Your vehicle is also another, and then your home obviously has significantly more. Now you don't have to physically carry your entire preparedness system on your body. And that makes more sense to me because context matters. If I'm going hiking, my carry changes. If I'm traveling, my carry changes. If I'm going to work, my carry changes. If I'm going somewhere with a family, my carry might change. If I'm literally running down the street for 5 minutes, I probably don't need some crazy loadout. Everyday carry doesn't have to mean carry the exact same equipment every waking moment of your life. It can be a system. And this is why I want people to actually do the 30-day challenge, because I think your gear should earn its place, not necessarily through constant use, but through purpose. That's the difference. If you haven't used something in 6 months, but you can clearly explain why it's there, great. If you use something 5 times every single day, obviously keep it. But if you're carrying something and when somebody asks why, and your answer is basically because EDC people carry these, maybe reconsider. I think this becomes specifically important for beginners because you don't need to buy the entire EDC starter pack. You don't need a knife, flashlight, pen, pry bar, multi-tool, pouch, Hank coin, carabiner, titanium toothpick, and whatever else TikTok convinced us to buy this week. Start with your life. What problem do you encounter regularly? Solve that. Then build outward. Maybe your EDC eventually becomes huge. Maybe you carry an entire backpack every day. Great. Maybe it's literally a phone, wallet, keys. That's also great. The amount of gear doesn't determine how serious you are about everyday carry. Intentionality does. And I think that's ultimately my argument today. I'm not telling you carry less. I'm telling you know why you're carrying more. Because if every item has a purpose, you've got yourself a system. If half of it is there because the internet told you that's what EDC looks like, you might just be carrying somebody else's system. And there's one more thing. Sometimes the reason can simply be, I enjoy carrying it. That's obviously allowed too. This is a hobby, guys. Maybe you don't need 2 knives, but you like carrying 2 knives. Fine, just own it. That's actually better than inventing some insane hypothetical scenario to justify it. I carry the second knife in case my first knife fails while I'm escaping a sinking submarine. Really? You like knives? It's okay. I like knives too. So here's what I want everybody watching to do. Look at your EDC right now. Your pockets, your pouch, your fanny pack, your sling, your backpack in the corner, whatever you're carrying. Find one item that you probably don't actually need and put it in the comments. I want people to be honest. I'll even make it more controversial. What's one EDC item you think most people carry that most people absolutely do not need? Pry bar guys, I already know what's about to happen. Keep it respectful, but defend your gear because I think this comment section is going to be fun. If you enjoyed today's episode and you're getting value from EDC for Beginners, I'd really appreciate if you like this video and subscribe and join me for future conversations. Every week, I'm going to be breaking down everyday carry in a way that's more approachable, practical, and hopefully helps you avoid some of the mistakes many of us made when we first got started. And if you're looking for honest reviews, first impressions, unboxing, comparison, hands-on videos, follow my main channel, MikeyDailyCarry. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for being a part of this community. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out. Walk back.